At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu. At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you very much for tuning into the program. It is Friday, July the 25th. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly. David Williams producing the command with an edition of the show. So, if you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial to get in the queue and on the air, 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. So, who's got the best record in the American League? That would be the Toronto Blue Jays with 11-4 victory last evening over the Detroit Tigers. Fantastic stuff. They also have the best record in baseball against teams with a winning record over 500. Yep. Harbour Grace Regatta this weekend on Saturday, part of the Triple Crown, of course. So they got about 15 crews participating. Most of them are female. Same thing at the Royal St. John's Regatta. So it's, of course, weather permitting at Lady Lake in Harbour Grace. And, of course, the Royal St. John's Regatta next Wednesday, not the first Wednesday in August, to make way for the Canada Summer Games participants. But yesterday there was a luncheon to induct the newest members of the Hall of Fame. Jimmy Carroll, Craig Whittle in the category of rower, Dr. Peter Hollett and the Newfoundland Broadcasting Company, CJON and NTV, in the category of builder, and Crosby Industrial Services senior men's crew in the category of crew. Record holders back in 2007. I actually called the race on Rogers. It was a great memory. Okay, let's keep going. So the world was watching yesterday as the verdict was handed down in the charges of sexual assault against 5 members of Team Canada, the 2018 World Juniors. Not guilty. The judge, it took like 5 hours, the Supreme Court Justice Maria Carroccia. So pretty detailed reading. And of course, I didn't sit there for the entirety of 5 hours. But the basic summary is that the evidentiary standards were not meant for a criminal conviction. The reaction is flowing in swiftly from every angle imaginable. And if you want to talk about it, we can absolutely do it. Even if it's this case or the broad strokes of sexual assault, how the criminal justice system handles it, how the defense lawyers handle it. But in this case, my only comment, I think, for now anyway, is Hockey Canada. The way they handle this is just atrocious. So unbeknownst to minor hockey players and minor hockey associations across the country, Hockey Canada quietly established a slush fund through monies coming in through registration for young hockey players. They were using that money to quiet or to silence those who were coming forward with allegations of sexual assault at the hands of people playing for Team Canada. So when this happened, and when they paid EM some sort of cash settlement, it eventually became public, and so consequently, Hockey Canada, of their own accord, made it feel very much like they thought the allegations were enough to justify a financial settlement, and consequently basically saying that the players were guilty. Before there was ever any charge laid by police, before there was any further investigation by police, even before there was any court proceedings that took place. So this has been a boondoggle from day one. Look, the verdict is not guilty. I didn't sit through every piece of evidence presented. I didn't sit through 9 days of EM's testimony. So I don't know much more beyond what I've read, the same as probably what you know about it, but the world is watching. And it's a stain on hockey. You know, regardless of what the verdict was in court, this is something that has plagued the sport of hockey for a long time. And it's time that something gets done about it. So I'm not sure what people want to think or say, but I guarantee my email inbox is full of very staunch opinions one way and the other. All right, during the program yesterday, we were told there was a shelter-in-place ordered. And consequently, when the police made it their way to the home, a 30-year-old was found shot dead. The 3 people have been detained. And I mean, this right on the heels of some of the new crime numbers coming out. There's lots of rumbles behind the scene. I'm not one to be peddling in rumor on this program, because who knows what agenda is being satisfied by some of these rumors. But here were the crime numbers, and here's an allegation of someone being shot dead inside the home. Who the person is, we don't know. The RNC are going to hold a press conference later this afternoon. I assume more details will be forthcoming, but the timing is not lost on me. Made mention yesterday of some of the issues being discussed at the Council of the Federations, of course, the country's premiers, joined by the Prime Minister for some trade talk stuff, and of course, domestic issues. The one that a lot of people are hanging their hat on, especially when we talk about these updated crime numbers, is bail reform. Someone pretty harshly taking me to task about something I said about it yesterday, even though I don't think they heard exactly what I said. Politicians can indeed and should absolutely be talking about bail reform. There's no doubt about it. People, I think, to a man, to a woman, are sick and tired of repeat offenders simply being granted bail, especially when they commit another crime while out on bail. My comment that I think drew the ire of this one person is that politicians can do whatever they want, but ultimately, bail reform, as proposed inside Parliament, will inevitably be ruled on by the courts. I don't know what's so offside about that, because that's technically and historically exactly what happens here. Bail reform has been presented to the Supreme Court of Canada in the past, and they've made their rulings. So the only thing I said, and this person is really quite furious with me, is yes, we can talk about it, and yes, proposals can be made and should be made. But ultimately, the courts will tell us what is and is not going to happen regarding bail, and most everything else in the world of crime. So anyway, I don't know why someone's so mad there. But on that front, regarding crime and some of the stats regarding intimate partner violence, the promise has promised to expand the ankle monitoring program for a pre-conviction stage. Let's do that. It's not going to 100% alleviate any possibility for further violence towards someone's intimate partner, but it's a start. So they said they were going to do it, so let's do it. One more, and this is not exactly a huge crime, but a taxi driver named Paul was on the show just yesterday, right, Dave? Paul was on yesterday? Talking about Uber and voicing his concerns with using rideshare versus the cab companies that are owned and operated in this province. Then there was right back to the story and the video footage of someone in the back seat of an Uber who was absolutely 3 sheets to the wind and smacked the Uber driver in the head, knocked his glasses off. The driver had a wicked old time even trying to file this complaint to get it followed up on. And the fella's name, the driver, is Gary Knoftel. He was actually featured in the first Uber ride when Uber first came to town. So this has now made its way through the courts, but he pled guilty. The guy named Colin Farrell lives out in Alberta. He's 42 years of age. Absolute discharge, $100 fine. $100 victim surcharge fine. That was the penalty for smacking Gary Knoftel in the head. Apparently, we're also going to get an update today on where we are regarding speed cameras. It also gets some pretty opinionated commentary coming my way, and I'm in favor of them. And I haven't said anything different since the day we first started talking about speed cameras. Yes, there's lots of concerns people have about, it's not me driving the car, and it's Big Brother kind of stuff, but the place is on wheels, and it does need to happen. Yes, we can talk about more police, and we absolutely should. Inside that whole world of criminal justice, whether it be crime prevention and hiring more police, I think both can be done concurrently. But the speed cameras can indeed replace a squad car if we're looking to give people a ticket, and hopefully what that might do into the future is slow them down, and ultimately, knowing they are entering into a speed camera zone, maybe you'll just slow down before you get the ticket. But we're getting an update today, apparently, so looking forward to it. Also, someone wanted to mention this. It is National Drowning Prevention Week. And, of course, obviously a topic to talk about now that the summer months have hit, even though we've got people on the water outside the summer months working for a living or out there for pleasure, but more and more people, by and large, will be on or in the water in the summer months. When on the water in boat, Transport Canada has to change the rules here. The life jacket is not a cushion. The life jacket is a personal flotation device. So any of the obvious things regarding drowning prevention, whether it be life jacket and keeping our eyes on our kids and not getting in the water too quickly if you're, I was going to say whacked, if you're loaded, drunk, or whatever the case may be. So anyway, someone wanted me to put that out there. All right. Also, plenty of people asking about in vitro fertilization. We know now 2 doctors are going to establish an IVF clinic. It's going to actually be in the old Costco building on Stavanger Drive. It's coming next year. I've been asked for a specific date when we can anticipate it to be open. I don't have one. But I don't know how I got so many emails on the same topic all in the same week. But anyway, it's coming next year. I can't get a firm date for you, but there you go. But on that front, just curiously, well, looking around the internet this morning, it was on this day in 1978, English-born Louise Joy Brown became the first human to be born after conception by in vitro fertilization. So the world is a weird place. People are asking me about that, and I happened to see this article this morning. Her parents, Leslie and John Brown, they've been trying to conceive for 9 years. Bunch of maternal complications, blocked fallopian tubes. The year before giving birth at Alton General Hospital. So procedures developed by people named Patrick Steptoe and Robert Edwards, later awarded the 2010 Nobel Prize in Medicine for the work. The media always referred to Brown as a test tube baby. Her conception actually took place in a petri dish. Anyway, apropos of not much. Okay, let's dig into it. Kruger, Cornerbrook Pulp and Paper, have announced to their employees they've got a diversification strategy, trying, of course, to secure the future for Cornerbrook Pulp and Paper. So they talk about their stakeholders, NL Hydro, local municipalities, workers and unions, and the provincial government. The companies talk about investing $700 million or thereabouts in what they're calling highly innovative and upgraded manufacturing complex. New pulp storage at the facility, upgrade site infrastructure, implementation of chip handling, receiving equipment. There's going to be a biomass unloading and drying system also to be installed. Spending money at Deer Lake and Watson's Pond hydro facilities, private wind farm on site, all to deal with what they call difficult market headwinds. Obviously, Cornerbrook Pulp and Paper is a big part of the economy on the West Coast. I'm not sure exactly how many people work there these days, but hundreds. So, obviously important. My questions would be, exactly what's the province's role here? Like, how much money are we actually talking about? We know that that industry is struggling mightily. And this is not me saying that we should not consider supporting the jobs at that facility because, of course, there's hundreds of them. Back in 2014, the province loaned the company $110 million. At this time, with the interest that's now accumulated, it's got to be in excess of $120 million, for sure. Has there been any monies paid on that loan? The last time we checked, the last time I asked, the answer was no. No monies had been paid. So yes, the stakeholders could be named as Hydro, the local municipalities, the workers, the unions, and the provincial government. But how exactly is this going to work? And in what form does provincial government assistance come in? So yes, hopefully the future can be bright for Cornerbrook Pulp and Paper. But I think questions regarding the money are also important to ask. What do you think? And on that front, been challenged pretty forcefully all week about temporary foreign workers. Number one, companies should absolutely do everything possible to hire a local first. Let's get that out of the way. Then it was the wage subsidy conversation, which is extremely popular, and it's a misheld conception about how the temporary foreign worker is supported regarding federal dollars. There are none. There's not a specific wage subsidy for a temporary foreign worker that comes from the federal government. It's just not a thing. So people tell me all the time, it's 30%, it's 60%, it's 80%, but it's actually 0% when we talk about specifically temporary foreign workers. In this province, there's absolutely a pot of money to support a TFW. Wage subsidy of up to $12 an hour for 28 weeks within a 42-week employment period. A 60% subsidy for the first 14 weeks and 80% for the last 14 weeks. So this is not only tailored to temporary foreign workers who are eligible if they have certain work permits, but also to Canadian citizens and permanent residents. So there are wage subsidy programs like the Canada Summer Jobs Wage Subsidy, but that's also to focus in on not only permanent residents, but also Canadian citizens. Student Work Placement Program provides up to $5,000 for employers who hire students and up to $7,000 to those from underrepresented groups, including newcomers. There are Canadian citizens and immigrants that are eligible, programs like the Digital Skills for Youth and Young Canada Works, but the specifics that I get, that I can find, and if I'm wrong, just show me how I'm wrong, and we'll be happy to talk about the accurate information on the show, but I cannot find one single pot of money that is a wage subsidy directed at temporary foreign workers. It's just not a thing. But that's been part of the divisive conversation regarding immigration in this country. But if we're talking about TFWs, there are other programs, but it's not a federal program. They're provincial programs, and they're different ones right across the country. They do it different in BC, they do it different in the Yukon, they do it different in Ontario, but I just gave you the Newfoundland and Labrador numbers and the federal numbers. What do you think? All right. Had a good call yesterday about the fact that a new study has reported that Canadian families pay on average 42.3% in taxes to the federal government. But that comes in every form, whether it be income taxes, payroll taxes, sale taxes, it's municipal fees, taxes, federal and provincial. Here's one that doesn't get much attention. If we're talking about monies that should be going to the federal government, here's one. It's how corporate Canada operates. All right. There's an estimated $15 billion a year in tax revenue due to the ongoing use of tax havens. So this report coming from Canadians for Tax Fairness. So the rise in tax havens reveals that wealthy Canadians and corporations had $682 billion stashed in tax havens in 2024. That represents a 165% increase over the course of 10 years. They estimate that the signing of 5 tax agreements with tax havens, which happened in the early 2010s, this happened under the Harper government, led to $47.1 billion being shifted to tax havens over the following 5 years. And this is not the exception. This is the rule. 46 of the 60 corporations listed on the S&P TSX 60 have at least one subsidiary as a tax haven. So basically what happens here is they find a country or a jurisdiction that has very, very favorable tax policy. They funnel their profits offshore to these tax havens and pay that tax in that jurisdiction. Then they flow the remaining profits back to this country tax-free. So while we should absolutely be questioning the level of taxation for individual Canadians, things like this are infuriating. You know, this is the epitome of bad faith. The same thing, and imagine if we close that loophole, and you close the loophole that allows the richest Canadians, the muckety-mucks amongst us, who are able to shoulder their monies in offshore tax accounts, offshore bank accounts. So, yes, we can talk about individual tax burden. Happy to do it. I'm a taxpayer. But the companies, imagine, it's as fundamental as that. Profit earned with a company headquartered in this country, profit funneled to a tax haven elsewhere to pay a lower tax there to then bring the profit, the remaining profit back tax-free. There's a reason why some of these questions don't get asked because, of course, they carry the biggest sticks. But we can ask them here on this program if you're so inclined. How we doing out there, Dave? Let's get at it. So just a couple of quick ones. There's a scheduled expansion of medical assistance in dying coming. And this one is for people who their ailment is mental illness. We've spoken to people who work in the field of mental health advocacy. And people are torn as to whether or not this is a good thing. Now, I think the way MAID has been used in the country is certainly not the way it was discussed in the at the onset. It has been offered to veterans as a first course. It has been offered to people who all they need is some additional supports to stay in their own home. 2 notable cases in Manitoba, but they couldn't get it, and so they thought the next option for them was medical assistance in dying. Now, it's a pretty comprehensive, thorough process, but we've been using it just too recklessly. But in the world of expanding it to people who their issue is a mental illness, people are torn. I'm not even sure what I think of it, but it's coming, and it's probably worthy of discussion if you're so inclined. And very last one, and we can talk about whatever today, right? So Premier Hogan asked yesterday about the whole transitional allowance, the additional severance for cabinet ministers. So he's quick to say, and fair enough, is that he said when he found out about it, which is really difficult to know how the Premier would not be informed on this matter, when he found out about it, he recalled cabinet and rescinded the allowance. Good. But the problem is that it happened in the first place. So when asked of different cabinet ministers as to whether or not they voted in favor of this additional allowance, they're not answering the question. They're basically saying that there's cabinet secrecy and cabinet solidarity. I understand why some things remain behind closed doors at the cabinet level, but if I'm a cabinet minister who did not vote in favor for this, I am really dying to tell people I didn't. Because you know what the outcome is here, and this is a bit of a cell phone. Not because I say so, because this is how the electorate thinks. is if people aren't going to answer as to whether or not they voted in favor of it, the assumption will be, for the vast majority of people, is that they all voted for it. So, I mean, talk about bungling something. You either voted for it or you didn't. This bit about cabinet solidarity. Look, I get the role of partisan and party politics. I get the issue regarding, people all pulling the rope in the same direction at the cabinet level and even at the caucus level. But when things like this draw the fury that it did, if I didn't vote for it, I want people to know, because they're automatically going to think you did. We're on Twitter. We're VOCM Open Line. Follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. When we come back, let's have a great show. That can only happen if you're in the queue to talk about whatever's on your mind. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's begin this morning on line number 4. Good morning, Tolson Rendell. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Paddy. How are you this morning, boy?
Best kind. How about you?
Good, Paddy, thanks.
Good.
I just want to give you a shout by let you know about this is the upcoming 159th anniversary on Sunday of the landing of the first successful transatlantic cable from Valentia, Ireland to Heart's Content, Newfoundland. And the reason why it's really special this year, it's special every year, but this year we've got a lady releasing having a book launch there, and her name is Mary C. Shepherd. And the book is based on Where the Heart Is, it's called, but it's a spy romance novel based on World War I and a young girl from Northern Point in Heart's Content involved in the book.
Fantastic. I remember the 150th anniversary for some reason, but outside the book, what else is going on?
Well, there's different things going on at the cable station, Paddy. I'm not exactly totally sure, but the best thing for people to realize is to come there and have a look at it, and then you'll really get to go what's on the move there, right? That's for the weekend. And for next weekend, we have our... you're invited to the grand opening of the Heart's Content Heritage Centre. Now, Paddy, this Heritage Centre we're opening is in our historic district, and one time as a boy growing up, I would remember it as the old United Church School, and then it was a Masonic Lodge or an Orange Lodge, vice versa, and it switched back and forth from lodges, and then, it ended up being used by the... Mizzen Heritage Society as a museum, and now they're turning it into a Grand Heritage Centre.
Fantastic.
Heart's Content Heritage Centre.
The actual anniversary is the 27th, right?
That's exactly right. But
Okay.
this launch of that grand opening of this Heritage Centre is going to be on August 1st, which is for a week from today.
Very good.
Yeah, and I just want to let you know on the August 1st at that night is a kitchen party, and August 2nd there's a lot of stuff going on on the Wye, we'll call it, in the town where the trains used to turn around in there, and there's like the Geranium Plus flower show, there's quilt rugs at the rec centre, there's a food shack by the ball field there by the playground, there's songs and yarns at the House of Commons on Northern Point, there's a Party Masters event in the field, I would think, right by the rec centre there, and there's the Rendell Forge will be open. Ian Gillies with Doug Cave. I think Ian Gillies is supposed to be a pretty good hand when it comes to making stuff. And then Sunday, on August 3rd, the Rendell Forge again with them two people will be open again, and the Geranium Flower Show will go ahead in on the Y from 12 to 4. And songs and yarns again at the House of Commons from 1 to 3. Quilts and rug display at the rec centre on Sunday as well. Food check from 12 to 5. And the Geranium Plus flower show, reception and prize draw at the rec centre from 4 to 5 on Sunday, August 3rd. Paddy, cram it on to one moment. Again, I'm going to extend you a wish, a big wish to come out here and have a look at it all, and I think you'll really be impressed.
I've been to the cable station, of course. It's been designated a historic site since sometime in the 70s. And that cable station operated...
was designated, and actually it was designated on, I think, July 27th, 1974.
Yeah, okay, there you go, 74.
Why I want to say to you now is that since you've been there then to now, it's changed. And when you walk in there, it's right now, you see the map on the floor of all the cables, and up in, it shows about Sarsfield and Gisborne and all those, and it is the eighth wonder of the world. Did you know that?
It was unheard of. I mean, we're talking about 1866. That cable station actually operated, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, for 98 or 99 years?
Well, Paddy, it operated into October of 1965, so it would have been 99. Into the 100th year.
Yeah, okay. How about that?
All right, so like if people have never ever been there, it's something to see. In fact, I had an older guy I met out on the lighthouse the week. He's from England, and he said to me, he said, Tolson, he said, when I walked in there, he said, the smell is still in the building. So I thought it was pretty impressive.
Not bad at all.
All right, you take care and have a good weekend.
Same to you, Tolson. All the best.
Take care and stay safe.
You too, pal. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Tolson Reynolds, good man. He also calls about raising money for the Janeway and stuff. Of course, he's been on. I think he's still on council out in Heart's Content. Anyway, do you want me to take another call here? No, we're too close to the break, are we, Dave? Yeah, okay. Just checking in the Twitter box. So someone's asking me, what has actually happened since the Prime Minister has made his pledges regarding Marine Atlantic? Okay, now this is just starting point stuff. Look, I brought it up on this program many, many times since, because I think it's a campaign pledge that we just can't let him off the hook here. Even though it's not going to change anything this summer, they're booked solid, and we have indeed invited Marine Atlantic to come on and talk about a bunch of things. The reservation system, the potential for a priority list, sailing when they're not absolutely full, all these types of things. So the question being asked to me is, what's anyone doing about it? Fair enough. I know that it was on the agenda and discussed at the Council of the Federation meeting, and that's just preliminary, I guess. And then it's the standard political operations of writing letters. And of course, that's just the fundamentals of it. Does that constitute actually doing enough to ensure that a promise made is a promise kept? I'll leave that up to you. On top of Marine Atlantic, and we absolutely can discuss it, I think the bigger promise made or comments offered by Mark Carney on the campaign trail was what it looks like at DFO. He talked about possible restructuring. Now, no real detail offered on that front, and I'm not so sure how much Mark Carney knows about DFO operations and the way it's structured at this moment in time, but that's something that kind of got lost in the shuffle. People heard Marine Atlantic and their ears perked up. But if DFO can be structured in a fashion that's more beneficial to especially the inshore fishery here in this province, that's something I think is worthy of more discussion. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about fuel. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Paul Lane is the independent member from Mount Pearl Southlands, joins us on line number 1. Paul, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy, and if you're not hearing me as good as you normally would, it's because I'm in beautiful Riverhead, St. Mary's Bay, and the cell service is improved, but it's still not as good as it would be, obviously, if I was in Mount Pearl.
You got to go up to the top of the hill going into Mall Bay.
Yeah, just past Big Pond. Anyway, Paddy, the reason why I called, actually before I get into the issue on the fuel, I was listening there to your preamble and the last part that you spoke about there about the issue with members of Cabinet voting themselves additional remuneration and so on. And I guess just on that, I just wanted, and we did speak about it last week as well, but I just wanted to sort of add to the fact that when we select who is going to form our government, well, not just the government, all members certainly, but when a government is formed and a cabinet is selected under our system, and as you know, just the way it works, that all the business, and there's all kinds of business happening on a regular basis in those cabinet meetings, and it's all, it all involves significant sums of money and decisions and so on affecting us all. And all that is done in confidence, secrecy, whatever you want to call it. So when it's important, I would suggest when we look at who we're going to put in those offices, in that, to elect, to represent us and so on, while obviously it's important to have people of different backgrounds and it's important to have people with different skill sets and obviously we want competent, intelligent people, I would say that the greatest attribute that we absolutely need to count on is integrity, because at the end of the day, it literally is trust us, because they're given all that power and the ability to make all those decisions, and we will never know what is discussed and what is done. Generally speaking, it's all done in secrecy. And that's the system. That's not this administration or any particular administration. That's just how the system works. So integrity is obviously the key attribute, I would suggest, to anyone that hold those positions.
I think the point I was trying to make maybe a little bit more specifically is, if I was a member of Cabinet and voiced opposition to this transitional allowance increase, I'd be furious now that everyone thinks I voted in favour for it. That's kind of what I was getting at. Is, I understand solidarity, I understand some of the protection afforded to the cabinet discussions, but remember, it's also not that long ago when the Privacy Commissioner, then Michael Harvey, was talking about what he thought was the abuse of solicitor-client privilege as a way to hide information from the general public. So, I get the party's structure, I understand the cabinet rules and how it works for the most part, but it doesn't mean we have to agree with it.
No, absolutely not. And I guess that's one of the flaws of the British parliamentary system that we have. And it's just simply the way it works. It works in all jurisdictions in the country, and that's, I guess, it is what it is. It is what it is. But yes, you're right. There's no doubt that if I was a member of the cabinet and I did not support this, I would be furious as well, because every one of them are going to wear it, whether they support it or not. That's the sad reality for them. Anyway, Paddy, I wanted to call in about the fuel prices, because I actually had someone reach out to me and ask me, said, Paul, would you, next time you're talking to Paddy, can you raise this issue about the fuel prices and about that additional 5 cents that we're all paying every time you go to the gas pump? It was put in, of course, when North Atlantic had shut down, I guess during the COVID period, and it had shut down. It was supposed to be a temporary shutdown. And, of course, the justification that was made by North Atlantic to the PUB at the time was because we were shut down and we're no longer producing fuel here in the province, it come by chance. We have to ship it all in, and there's an additional expense. And as a result of that, they were granted what was supposed to be a temporary 5 cents. Now, of course, the part that they never raised, and I don't know if people necessarily understand it all, but there's more companies than North Atlantic that we get fuel from. So Irving, for example, they weren't producing fuel here in Newfoundland. They were shipping all of their product in. They never had that additional 5 cents, but they could still do it and still obviously make a good profit and so on. But when North Atlantic got the increase, everybody got the increase. And of course, when North Atlantic decided to go to the biofuels and so on, and sell off and get out of the business altogether, the 5 cents remained, and it still remains to this day. So, obviously it went through the PUB, and I have questioned, I've sent messages to the minister, to the former minister, I should say, about it, because I had citizens reach out to me. And of course, the response, you generally get as well, the PUB decided. And I get that the PUB decided, but I wonder, is there a way, certainly something I think that the government needs to look at, to see if there's any way that 5 cents can be reversed.
Sure.
Because it was never there before.
Short answer is it can be reversed. Just a couple of points of clarity. North Atlantic didn't get into the renewables. North Atlantic simply, Silver Peak sold, North Atlantic sold, and Brea came to town. People kind of conflate a couple of different things here. Is they say, it was because the government put the 5 cents in while they were looking to sell Come By Chance. That's not actually true. The government actually put $16 million cash on the barrelhead to keep Come By Chance in what they call warm idle, because apparently if it had to go fully cold, it would certainly diminish the potential for a suitor to come to town. We long imported more gas than we ever produced or refined at Come By Chance. So this 5 cents, as soon as someone tells me it's temporary, then I got a funny feeling it's going to be permanent. And it's unnecessary, because you're 100% right. Other companies brought fuel to town that never got paid as part of their business model an additional 5 cents a litre, so it's time for it to go away.
Absolutely, and like you say, it was never part of their business model, but once it got put in for one, it applied to everybody. So for them, it just became this huge windfall. I mean, that's the bottom line. So, I would call it a cash grab, really. Now, obviously, if you're in business, you're trying to make as much money as you can. So obviously, they're happy with it. Why wouldn't it be? It's additional profit. They don't ever want it to go away. But at the end of the day, government has a responsibility to the people of the province and to consumers. And if the PUB are not going to do the right thing for whatever reason and allow this to continue, then I think the government needs to step in and to simply, for any government to simply say, oh, well, it's the PUB, so there's nothing we can do, and use them as a shield, the same way as for years we used school boards and everything else as a shield, then I think it's wrong. So one of the things I would like to see as part of the campaign platform for the PCs, for the Liberals, whoever, for all of them really, is to say that they're going to scrap that 5 cents, take whatever necessary action is necessary and make it happen. I think they can. I think they should.
And, of course, the conversation about how fuel is basically a tax on a tax on a tax on a tax. And at the end, HST applied. So, it starts with the 10-cent federal excise tax that has been in place for for decades. Can't remember exactly the date where it was imposed, and it's never changed. And then, of course, now that there's no carbon tax, you can back that up. But we put the 10-cent federal excise tax on, then you put the provincial tax on, and then you put HST on all of the taxes. It just feels... It's certainly lopsided in government's favour, no doubt about that. Paul, appreciate the time. Thanks a lot. Enjoy Riverhead and say hello to all my friends out there.
I absolutely will, Paddy. You're a very popular man down this way.
Well, my father was anyway.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks,
Have a good one, Paddy.
You too. All the best.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye. Okay, let's take another one before we get to the break. Let's go to line number 3.
I think it was last week, too.
Randy.
Hello.
Hi, Randy. You're on the air.
Oh, good day, Paddy. What are you at?
Much, man. What are you at?
Nothing away, working away. It's Friday. TGIF. I called because I drive for Jiffy, and I'm parked up on stand 3 now at the top of Bell Turn.
Okay.
And out in the grass there's 5 buckets, like 5-gallon buckets of needles, used needles. And one of the buckets is broke open. There's needles and garbage everywhere.
Ugh, man.
And now this is they're professional containers, right? They're all marked Stericycle, Biohazard, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And now this was last week. I seen them first, so I contacted R&C, and they said that it's not their job. So they contacted the city. Then the city called me back, and I told them about it. And this is over a week ago now, and I just came up there and looked again. They're still just sitting there in the grass, 5 bucketfuls of dirty needles.
All right, City of St. John's, members of council who are listening to the program, you tell us that it's your responsibility to clean up these needles when you're informed at either 311 or 754-2489. You've been told, please go get the needles before a dog got them in their mouth or a kid picks them up or whatever the case may be. Also, if you don't have any luck with the city today, if you happen to check back, Randy, you can also probably get some help from the AIDS Committee of Newfoundland and Labrador. They will help the public in the safe disposal of needles as well. But City of St. John's, look, you even tell us on your website, if you see the needle, don't touch it, call us. So you've been called.
Yeah, like I said, I called him, I was talking to him, and it's right next to their water testing station up here on Bell Turn.
Right.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Okay, the city
and whoever threw him there, hopefully to be found, because it should be investigated, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to become of that, but the fact of the matter is, the city has been informed. Can you please do what you tell us all to do? Is call you and you'll take care of it. So this is the call publicly. Please go get those needles. Top of Bell's Turn. We can send you directions.
Yes, perfect.
Thanks a lot, man.
Excellent. Yeah, big shout out to Paul down on stand 4 for me. He loves your show.
Paul's a good fellow.
Okay. Have a good day, Paddy.
You too, Randy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yes. Look, it's important. When there are entities, and in this case, the City of St. John's, they tell us every time, if you see a needle, don't touch it. Call us, we'll go get it. Please do go get it. Very quickly, shout out to the folks out in Frenchman's Cove with the Raleigh Sea Festival happening now. Bingo tonight at the Community Centre. Doors open at 7 o'clock. Bring your own dabber. Tomorrow there's a breakfast hosted from 8 till 11. Family fun day at the Airstrip. They've got cornhole, washers, beer tent, music, games and fun for the kids. And apparently there's a Mrs. Roper's Day. That's pretty popular, that Mrs. Roper kind of stuff. So break out your best Kathleen and do your Mrs. Roper bit. So hope they all have a good blast at the Frenchman's Cove Raleigh Sea Festival happening right now. Let's take a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 4. Good morning, Selena. You're on the air.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
No problem.
Yeah, I was just I was going to talk about something else with the healthcare system there last week or earlier in the week, but this whole thing about the hockey players getting off with these charges, it hits a little close to me because I have somebody. I'm not naming any names. Everything's not, settled. But I've been going through this now a year and a half. I have somebody up on sex charges. Now, I've been raped and assaulted a lot in my lifetime, and I've never done anything about it. I carry around a lot of guilt about that. Now, this particular person is an older man in his 70s. We were extremely close friends. Something really bad happened. Now, I've been going through this almost a year and a half. Now, the court is coming up in September. Now, he don't have any charges on him, and he's retired from the Coast Guard. So it's like, I'm scared now. I have to testify. If he walks on this charge, where I live, there's only one way out for me to get out of where I live in the woods, and there's only one road. And I have to look at this person every day when I check my mail, or if I have to go to the store or the gas station, everything's all on the same road. And it's been almost a year and a half, and if he walks on these charges, and I did it because I know he's around young girls, and I felt so guilty about the other things I never said, and I did it, and now if he walks on these charges, am I supposed to move out of my home, or just watch him tipping his hat at me all the time, every time I see him, and winking at me and walking around? As far as I'm concerned, he shouldn't even be out. Being allowed to be around young girls or anybody, and I'm just, they're talking about the above victims to come forward. They're not making it easy, Patrick. Really. What do you think? I mean, they're not making it easy. They say they just want everyone to come forward. And I know that was a big case, right? But I mean, even what me or anybody else said is not all publicized. It's just as difficult. And it doesn't make it easier for us when we hear those things,
I understand. I'm not sure what to say to it, but the general concept of people being encouraged to come forward if and when they were assaulted sexually or otherwise, there's reasons why some women don't feel like they can or want to come forward. I mean, even yesterday, when the judge, inside the 5-hour explanation of the ruling, talked even about how the defense attorneys were treating EM, the lady who came forward. So there's a lot to this big topic. I don't know what can be done pragmatically to change it, because the defense is allowed to have a vigorous defense by their legal representatives, but there's something to be said for what the judge, characterized as being mocking and insulting and those types of things. Boy, I mean, there's reasons why some women will not come forward.
I don't even know if anybody ever will. There's so many of us, and I know that to be a fact. And it never happens because you don't want to do it. You just put it in the back of your mind and just go ahead and carry on with your life. But I couldn't do it no more because I knew that this person was around other people, and I was like, I can't carry the guilt around if something happens to someone else. And then this particular person got charged again from somebody else in another town during this, and now he's still walking around. And it's just, I don't understand it. I really don't. How somebody can be walking around like that when now we got another charge from somebody else in a different city, and now he's still out walking around tilting his hat at me when I'm checking my mailbox. So it's very difficult.
I'm sure it is, Selena. I'm sorry to hear it.
So I hope somebody or something can change to make it easier for women or men or anybody to come out and charge these people, but it's not helping. These cases make it a lot harder for people. You know, it's just, I think it's out of pocket, right? And I know you agree with me. It's out of pocket. It's something got to change there with that. Because a lot of people aren't coming forward. What you hear on the radio and you get statistics, those statistics aren't correct. Because domestic violence and assaults, most of them are not ever reported. So it's way higher than what the statistics are showing.
And we do understand that it's underreported in the country, and there's a variety of reasons as to why. Selena, I appreciate making time. I hope you're okay. And you know, for that person to be tipping,
I'm gonna follow through. I'll be fine. I'm trying like that. I'm good.
I'm glad to hear that.
I've been sober since November now, so I got my head on.
Selena, you take good care of yourself. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time, Patrick.
My
you
pleasure.
have a great day. David. Have a good weekend, guys.
You too. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye. I don't know what happened to my screen, Dave, but what was there is no longer. Also, coming up after the 10 o'clock news, which is coming up soon, this is, I guess, a message also for Dave. I spoke earlier in the week about how youth volunteers at the Canada Summer Games are not being treated the same as adults. Even just the fundamentals of getting a kit with the shirt and the hat and the jacket and stuff. So they're feeling pretty undervalued. I hear that some have actually said, well, I'm not going to do it. The lady, the lady who sent me an email regarding this particular issue, I believe is going to join us right after the 10 o'clock news. I also believe one of her daughters, who is, and I suppose or I assume still going to volunteer in the games, will also join us as well. There's lots to be said about the upcoming games. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a great opportunity for young athletes right across the country. It will be the biggest event most of them will ever participate in. Many of them have probably been to national tournaments before, but not national tournaments with all these different sports being competed for and in at the same time. On that front, and this is not about fear, this is just about facts. There are some public health concerns, regarding a bunch of things, including measles. It's remarkable to me, this day and age, in 2025, we're talking about the measles the way we are. The outbreak numbers in different parts of the country, just unbelievable. There's also, now I saw a news story this morning, there's 30 reported cases in northern Nova Scotia as well. So the whole conversation regarding vaccination, I mean, COVID broke a lot of people. And I understood the hesitancy then, and I know people still talk about it now, and that the government has refunded a vaccine injury program. I get all of that. But the measles vaccine, the MMR, is really well understood, right? And has obviously been extremely effective. But apparently that's not a thing people are willing to consider. Let's see here. Let's take a break. When we come back, still plenty of time left for you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's begin this segment on line number one. Sigmund to Sarah Furlong, the Liberal candidate in the pending election, Mount Pearl Southlands. Well, I guess the general election. Hi, Sarah. You're on the air. Hi, Sarah. Is that pot up, David? Sarah, on line number one. Are you there?
Hi, Patty. How are you?
Okay, now, how about you?
I'm doing great.
Before we get into some issue commentary, so how did it work for you to become a candidate? Were you recruited by the party? Have you long been thinking about it? How did it work for you particularly?
Well, Patty, as you know, for a decade now, I've been a mental health advocate. And this is something I work with people in our community around the clock. So it's relationships that I've built over the several years that I have been working with community, different organizations, as a foster parent, a member of school council, and a mom of 3 children. So it's just relationships that I've built. No one outwardly came out and said, Sarah, you need to run. Of course not. This is something that has always been a lifelong goal of mine, and I'm really looking forward to working for the people.
Good for you. I congratulate anybody running for any party, because it's a big undertaking. You know, you kind of put the rest of your life on hold when you go to campaign. It can be all-consuming. So whatever party, whoever's running, good on you for doing it. Then, of course, the next obvious question would be, why the Liberal Party? You know, in this province, we have the habit of people get tired of one party or another, then we just put in a different party. Of course, it's just been back and forth between the Liberals and Tories since 1949. So why the Liberals?
You know, I like how the Liberals have a middle ground. And that was one thing in deciding who I'm going to go with. I always knew I was going to get into politics. You know, I considered running independently, thought about NDP. Honestly, I feel that Liberal stands for a very neutral. They're all about families, and it's a great way to give back into the community, looking at seniors, looking at families, looking at healthcare. I think that they have a great voice right now, and I think with John Hogan's leadership, it's the way forward.
Inside Mount Pearl Southlands, regardless of what anybody thinks about Paul Lane, he's been winning that voting district handily. I think he had like almost 3,500 votes compared to the second place runner, maybe about 1,100 votes last time around. So your thoughts on taking on what is largely viewed as a good constituency man? Not because I say so, because the voters in the district say so.
I think everyone loves Paul Lane. There's no argument there. I'm a friend of Paul Lane's, and he's actually inspired me over the number of years that I've worked with him. So I have to say that, you know, yes, it's going to be a challenge. While Paul is a great constituent man, I'm willing to work very hard for the community, and with a seat at the table, I think I have a great chance of being a voice for the people and the leading party.
How do you set yourself apart? Because that's the trick, isn't it, when you campaign? People can lean in on the colour of the party banner, but also there's the need for many voters to see one candidate distinguish himself from another. So what does your pitch sound like at the door?
So, I mean, Patty, my pitch is very family-oriented. I'm a big believer in safer communities. Safety is huge right now. There's so much going on in the news. Not am I only a mental health advocate. You know, I have my own mental health lived experience. I have children with disabilities, medical needs. I've had to navigate the healthcare system myself and for my children. You know, I have parents who worked in the public service, seniors in the community, members, you know, worked with the church community my whole life as a cantor. So I feel that it's about bringing back to where we were. You know, things have changed tremendously in the last number of years, and I think that we can get back to safer communities, more family-oriented, so people are feeling safe out on the streets with their children out in playgrounds. What
do we do? Because it's a complex issue, but from your perspective, when we talk about public safety, how can it be enhanced? By doing what?
Well, it depends on what we're talking about, right? So what I'd like to know is I'd like to hear from the people and their specific concerns. You know, whether that's gun violence or whether it's safety on crosswalks, or I have been a member of the Building Safer Communities committee and speaking groups with the City of St. John. So it's something that I have been involved in the last year. So I'm going to learn from that as well as hear what people have to say. And I would love for anyone to email me at votesarahfurlong@gmail.com, or they can reach out to me by phone, and I can also get my phone number to you as well, Patty.
Appreciate it. You're welcome to give it out here now if you like.
Sure. So my phone number is 709-725-6091, and anyone can reach me by phone or text message or email, whatever works best.
I appreciate your time, Sarah. Good luck.
Thank you so much, Patty. Have a wonderful day.
The very same to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That's Sarah Furlong, running for the Liberals in Mount Pearl Southlands. Let's go to line number 2. Good morning, Susan. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Very well. How about you?
Not bad at all, Patty. I'll try not to keep you on the line there for very long, but I would like to get something out just for transparency, I guess. So, as most of us know by now, the Canada Games are starting in about 2 weeks. The opening ceremony is being started on August the 9th, and it is the largest multi-sport event in Canada. Certainly hope that everyone, whether they're sport inclined or not, has the opportunity to watch and to take in everything that the Games has to offer, Patty, from from pin trading to social events to sports often that we don't get to see around here, like box lacrosse and other things. So I hope everyone in the population gets a chance to attend and to watch those things that they have to offer. There's a couple troubling things, though, that's happening within the game structure that is slowly starting to filter through primarily the parent and volunteer community, but I really don't think people are aware. And that's the fair and equitable treatment of our youth volunteers. So everyone's seen the ads on TV regarding the kit list. So that's the gear that the volunteers will be receiving. Their bright orange definitely stands out, serves the purpose of what they need to identify volunteers for safety reasons. But the under 16 population, the under 16 volunteers, and that's those who are meeting the exact same standards as the adults, those that are punching their minimum hours, they'll be fully credentialized. They've been told that they're not entitled to the kit. Patty, what's disturbing to me is that I've drafted emails, I've sent emails to games personnel, to government officials. There is no traction on this whatsoever. I've received a couple bounce back emails. Tony Wakeham has actually reached out to me personally, just expressing his displeasure. But aside from that, it took a second follow-up email to Minister Hutton, only to get a bounce back email with an acknowledgement from his EA. So I don't understand what the basis of this is. I don't understand the reasoning, and I feel as if there's something going on larger behind the scenes. And it certainly needs to be addressed for our youth, for the ones that have issues speaking up for themselves or are simply unable to and can't get near.
When you made me aware, I spoke about it right on the program. So tell us exactly what they're being denied and what you think the implications are.
Absolutely, Patty. So volunteer kit is what you'll often hear people speak of inside the games. And a kit is essentially a package of merchandise that they receive both for safety reasons and also for acknowledgements of being volunteers for the games. What is included in that kit is a Canadian's hat, so like a ball cap. There's also a long sleeve weather coat that's there for wind and rain sort of things for sports that are outside. And there's also two shirts, a t-shirt and a polo. So the reasoning for this kit is for visibility, for the public to identify volunteers, also for managers and for other supervisors to identify the youth as well. But it's also for protection from the elements and other things that's there. So, for example, I can speak to the two things that I'm very familiar with, which is indoor and beach volleyball. So I'll use indoor as an example. There's a portable air conditioning unit which is going into the field house. So there's a possibility for a coat that's there to keep them warm for all volunteers, youth and adults, hopefully. And for beach exclusively, it's being located, as most people know, at the Paradise Double Ice Complex, probably the second windiest spot in Newfoundland and Labrador next to Costco. And they'll need hats for sun protection. There's two shirts that's there. Most of these volunteers are punching well over their 32 hours. And their coats between rain, environmental factors, and those things that's there. So they have been told they will not be receiving the kit. The under 16 crowd specifically has been told that they will be getting something. No one seems to know what that is. From the back door, it seems like some random T-shirt of some variety just to say, hey, I'm here, I'm a volunteer. But I have no understanding for the exclusion. These are volunteers that are working alongside adult volunteers. For the most part, these youth volunteers are field of play. What that means is that these will be the youth which will be on the courts. They'll be on the fields. They'll be on television. If we're touting ourselves as an area of first-class tourism, we can do this the best. What's the barrier here for the youth? Why are we cutting it off at the 16 age group? I don't understand. I don't understand the silence, Patty.
Me neither. It can only be about money, I assume, but that's a pretty flimsy way to make that decision. Look, they deserve to be treated like the adults. I agree with you 100%. It is part and parcel of being identified for safety and for everything else. I mean, people will look around for who's wearing a kit, knowing that they are the local representative. They're the local volunteer. Even if it's just a basic question about where's the bathroom, like whatever it might be, to identify a volunteer has long been critically important here. And so I don't understand the rationale behind this either. And hopefully something pragmatic can be done, even though we're pretty late in the day. The games, the opening ceremony is around the 8th. The athletes arrive, I would imagine, for week 1 on the 6th or the 7th. So I don't know why this is the case, and it should never be.
I don't understand either, Patty. And like I said, there's just simply no responses to it. So I do feel like there's something larger going on behind. I can speak to my experience as a youth in 1999 in Corner Brook, where I grew up. I have fond memories of that experience, meeting athletes, pin trading. We were treated the same as all the other adult volunteers. that kickstarted some of my experience with volunteering and brought it into my adulthood. And the youth that are being denied the ability, pretty much it's discrimination. Well, it's not pretty much. It is black and white. It's discrimination based on age. This is a generation that we need to motivate, to encourage, to stand alongside, to show what volunteering and community spirit and giving back is about. This is doing nothing but putting the knife in that for them. So as far as government officials, as far as Canada Games Council, I truly don't understand. And like I said, the silence is deafening. Now, there's a plot twist to this, Patty, just really quickly, and I have no correspondence, no official email from this, but there was two different things that I was told yesterday from other people. One of it is that there may be an issue with a sponsor. So Atlantic Lottery is a sponsor for the volunteers. So like I said, this is probably third or fourth hand by the time I got there. And they have concern with distributing the kit list with ALC logos on it. Now, to the untrained ear, that could sound plausible. However, Atlantic Lottery has been a sponsor of youth sports and youth events for decades.
Yep.
So I don't understand why a U16 versus a U17 or 18, where the difference with that would be. I feel like there's a possibility now that there might be a little bit of discussion, and now everyone is forced into a defensive mode, so they're just trying to fire out absolutely everything that's possible. The other thing that I learned yesterday was, and I can't speak for the other provincial sports organizations or for volleyball for that matter, as I'm representing as a parent, but a lot of the other youth volunteers for the Canada Games are up to 10-hour commitment. So they're being involved, but they're being involved in different ways. They're still volunteering, but not to the same level as the credentialized volunteers that went through the Canada Games volunteer process. That makes it even worse, in my opinion, because this reduces the number down to around 75 youth that are being denied. They screamed for 5,000. They screamed that they couldn't get enough. Now they're telling us that they can't find 75 kits for these kids.
Yeah. In addition to that, I don't want to derail what we're talking about, but I also get reports from different athletes playing in different sports that there wasn't enough variety of sizes so that everyone has a kit that fits. I mean,
100%. 100%. So this isn't the first kick at the can. Yes, this is the third time that it's been hosted in Newfoundland and Labrador. Decades go by between our hosting abilities that's there, but it's back. But every 4 years for summer and winter, so every 2 years, a Canada Games is hosted. It's across Canada. There's people with this experience. This isn't the first time that this has been done. Where are the individuals who have been through this before, who have learned these lessons? Were the conversations even had with past host societies? Like, it all seems like things were very haphazard thrown together. And I'd hate to venture the number of paid officials that are actually employed for this event.
I'm a big supporter of youth sports. I'm a big supporter of these Canada Games, but it doesn't seem like we're getting off on the right foot here, even with the officials. So if I'm an official in the round robin of one sport or another, but I'm not slated to participate in the medal round, I got to pay to go to the game. I mean, come on.
Yeah, so this is something that the communication here has been lacking. I'm still very confused about that aspect of it, because initially it was touted that if you were a volunteer, so whether it's official or volunteer punching your 32 hours, that yes, there was tickets, and after the tickets you could fill the seats, 100%. But the messaging over the last week or so has changed to that. So even so much now, I don't hold the full ticket package myself, but when you read the ticket package online, it had said about access to all events for the duration of the games. But they put up messaging last week that there was medal round available, and almost led everyone to believe that the full package wasn't included. Now, that's not why I called today, Patty, but the whole messaging regarding communication, even emails, generic ones about status of accounts for youth. There's youth who have been, and adults, I'm sure, but I'll speak to the youth because that's why I called today, that have been put forth from the provincial sports organizations over a month ago, and they're still not in the online system for the Canada Games. I sent a generic email about updating my credentials about a week ago or more. I only received an email back yesterday. So for the urgency, for the proximity to the games, we're 2 weeks out. I think there's a lot not going on behind the scenes. I was going to say there's a lot going on behind the scenes, but I think there's a lot not going on behind the scenes. And I just hope that what's able to be remedied can be remedied, and that the people who are able to step up can step up, and that when youth and athletes and parents and mentors and VIPs come, that we can put off that first-class experience for them. But there's a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot of people that have to answer questions before then.
Agreed, and I appreciate the time, Susan. In addition to that, the athletes are most likely going to relate to the young volunteers and the older volunteers. That's also part of this.
Absolutely. It's and that's what I had said. This is a relationship that they build. We see this often now with me as a coach, that I can coach, but it's nice to have a younger assistant coach or someone else that's on the bench that the youth can relate to. And these are the memories that are built, the relationships that are built, and who these athletes are, like you said, more likely to associate with. They're needed for a whole host of different reasons, not just being on the court to deliver the sport experience itself. It's the whole experience of being a volunteer and providing the service for the athletes. I
appreciate the time, Susan. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you, Patty. Appreciate it very much.
My
and if
pleasure.
there's any parents that's out there, ask the right questions.
Fair ball. Thank you, Susan.
Okay. See you. Have a good day, Patty.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, let's get a break in. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 4. Sandra, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. I'm calling basically out of concern for a person who called in a few days back. Her name was Leanne. She had been talking with you as to being very upset that she had to quit her job and that she had no means of transportation to get back and forth, and was basically very upset that she didn't want to end up going back on welfare again. Now, I can understand how she is feeling. That's a very low place to have to be in life. And I thought of something that was actually supposed to be put forth to help me, but as of yet hasn't seemed to pan out. But I do know is in other areas that she can contact her MHA, and perhaps it is in her area. What I'm talking about, Patty, is I don't know if you've seen on the news, it was back quite a few months, but Corner Brook had a van. The van was meant for people with disabilities and on low income, and that couldn't afford a taxi and had nobody to take them basically from point A to point B, and basically so they could function in life, whether they were disabled or not. And it was also to help students on low income get back and forth to school, whether that be with a disability or not. I'm not too sure, because it seems as though that this bus was being used for multiple reasons. Now, when I heard her story, and now that I would imagine she would have to go back to social services, whether she wants to or not, in order to even have some sort of a means to survive, even though that's limited where they're concerned. I thought that she could reach out to her MHA and inquire about that as to for herself, because in knowing from what she said where she was a client of social services, they would know her background and know that her situation after leaving. So I also thought another place that she could go to avail of some help would be Seniors NL, and to get see if she could get a link worker to help her, because it seems as though with her limitations health-wise, she still has the gumption and the want to provide for herself and not to be availing of social services. But as you know, it's pretty hard for somebody to function when there's lack of help or the thoughts of people saying that they care, but don't want to extend the help that's actually needed for the person. So I thought I would give you a call this morning in the hopes that this lady would hear me. And if she would like to basically reach out even to my link worker at Seniors NL, I would be willing to give her her number, but in knowing that she would only be able to leave a message for now because she's going on holiday for a while. And she can also use my name to give to her that I gave her the number, if that's something you would like to do.
Absolutely. I'm happy to pass along any information. Why don't we do this? I'll put you on hold. You can give David whatever you like. We'll be sure to reach out to Leanne and give her the helpful suggestions that you've offered. How's that?
That would be perfect.
Okay.
Because I don't like to see, Patty, somebody suffer unnecessarily. If even I know there's a little bit of help that I can offer. Now, whether it will pan out for her or not, I don't know, but at least she'll know that somebody out there had a thought towards her and wanted to see to offer her any kind of help that was probably available to benefit her.
It's a very kind-hearted call, Sandra. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you very much,
You're
Patty.
welcome. I'm going to put Sandra on hold for you, David, and we can exchange whatever information she has. That was really great. Let's get another one. Let's go to line number 2. Ron, you're on the air. Hi, Ron.
Hello, Patty. Yes, I'm here. I just want to give you a quick call about All Newfoundland tournament and the goal this weekend. It's for inline hockey for men. I don't know if you're up to speed with the inline hockey, the roller hockey.
Absolutely. I actually retweeted it on behalf of Tommy Beckett there a few days ago.
Well, there you go. You're all over. I know you're a hockey guy. So.
Yeah.
But Gould's Arena, I was up there a couple of times now. They got the new floor now, new sports floor, whatever it's called. Man, oh man, the Gould's Arena never looked so good. Bleachers are all painted up. Good. Now, they do paint the place. I know they do that. But this new floor they got down, it's like a light blue. Looks like a ice surface. And the puck moves so much quicker. I don't play up there. Them days are gone. But the puck moves so much better on it. The boys are they're flying out there, and some of the moves you make on the skates a lot different than on these roller blades, a lot different than on ice skates and that. And the goaltending is superb. They're playing tonight 7. Just for the listeners, I know you posted it. 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock tonight, 11 to 5 tomorrow, and championship and match games are 1 to 3 on Sunday. They're going to have hot dogs, hamburgers, whatever. And they do what a job of them. They're starting to live stream the games, I think, coming up soon, and they got cameras set up there. Man, I'll tell you something. It's a credit to the boys that are organized. I tell you, it's great.
Good on them. And I tell you what, inline hockey is way harder than it looks.
I know. Well, again, I don't know, but just talking to some of the guys there, it seems like not a lot, but some of the players that were playing ball hockey, when they go on the blades, they say, man, this is a lot easier on the knees kind of thing. Right? Never hanging on the body.
Oh, regular ball hockey is brutally hard.
Yeah.
I mean, for starters, I just don't have the stamina for it. Thanks for doing this, Ron. Hopefully people can make their way to the Ghouls if they're so inclined to have taken a little bit of inline ball hockey.
Yeah, that is great. Yeah, okay, thanks, Eddie. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. See you, Ron. Okay, let's see here. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about cabinet ministers, and then we'll talk about the Hall of Fame, the Sports Hall of Fame, where we'll all find out at the same time. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's go to line number 1. Good morning, Kevin. You're on the air.
Morning, Patty. How are you today, sir?
Top shelf today. How about you?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Good.
I'll get better, though. Patty, calling now. Well, that lady there a little while ago talking about the young lady who wanted to get to work and all that stuff and all in there kind of makes you wonder when we got these clowns in government and cabinet that are giving themselves $1,000 rate, tens of thousands of dollars in raises and that, and hiding it away. How long has stuff like this been going on, and what can we do to hold these people accountable to make sure nothing like this happens in the future?
It's a fair question. You know, we will always eventually find out how much money is being paid to a variety of people. You know, we can look at the Sunshine List. We can look at the members of the House of Assembly and their pay. The biggest problem here, well, I mean, for SARS, it shouldn't have never happened. But the biggest problem for most is how it happened. You know, for it to come into effect on April the 1st, and we find out late in July that it's the case because they didn't tell us. You know, we had to wait for whoever at the CBC, maybe it was Rob Antle, to, you know, submit an access to information request to find out. That should never be the case. For me, that's the biggest problem.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing with the Rothschild report and all that cabinet confidentiality, but I mean, at the end of the day, you're using the people's money, you're responsible to the people, and yet not only giving themselves raises, but what else is going on behind the scenes that we'll never know nothing about because it's cabinet confidentiality.
It's hard to say, but we're always going to understand the money. You know, but it's when we get it and whether or not there's public discussion or discourse or debate about things before they actually take place. Like when the $25,000 raise was proposed. You know, whether or not people thought it was a good idea, the fact of the matter is we were told it was a recommendation and we had a chance to voice our opinion on it. So, you know, I don't begrudge politicians getting paid. I don't. You know, people can argue about whether or not it's too much or too little. That's up to the individual. But base pay for an MHA is, I think, is $93,357, something like that. And then the bump up, if you're a cabinet minister, is an additional $48,600. The premier gets an additional $65,000. The speaker gets an additional, what's the speaker get? $54,000 in additional compensation. Then they get committee allowances, $190 per diem. They get travel allowances, the accommodation allowances. So there's, though the base salary is $95,357. Yeah, so we're talking about significant monies anyway.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, here we are with people trying to get to work and they can't even accommodate them. But, you know, just come to me, boy. How many more backdoor deals or shenanigans are on the go with these clowns that... And how do we hold them accountable and stop it? I mean, is there any way that we can make sure that stuff like this just don't happen in the future?
I don't know how that would be. I mean, there's an court case about who politicians are accountable to. They're only necessarily truly accountable to the electorate at election time. Other than that, they're accountable to, in the case of Parliament, to Parliament, and in the legislature, to the legislature. So that's the accountability piece that, you know, kind of gets a bit misunderstood. They talk about transparency and accountability all the time, but it's more like it's opaque and unaccountable because there's no real mechanism in place, legally speaking, to do anything but cast your vote as you see fit when an election is called. So it's a tricky question, but that's the basics of it.
Oh, it is, but I mean, still, so what we're saying is that once we elect them in, they can do what they damn well please, and I mean, they're holding purse strings, they can give themselves raises, they can do whatever they want, and they're not accountable to nobody. So that is in stark contrast to democracy, isn't it? I mean, the people should have a right to say, not just to vote. All you're doing is putting them in there, but I mean, we should have a right to say how the money is being spent and where it's going to be spent and all this, and not just leave it up to them.
Yeah, it's the optics, right? So there'll be pre-budget consultations and all that kind of stuff. Whether or not that has any realistic or pragmatic impact on the crafting of a budget, probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
So
right.
Stuff like that. Now, people talk about it. This used to be a conversation that was had on this show sometimes, was recall legislation, like they have in other parts of the world. And I get the concept, but what would constitute actual grounds for recall legislation to kick in? You know, because just think about it. Voters, not just here, but voters for the most part everywhere, are pretty fickle. You know, if something doesn't get done to their liking and recall legislation was available, man, oh man, we could set up a turnstile at front of every MHA's office. Not one MHA would last 4 years, ever.
Oh, without a doubt, you know, and because of their own doings. But having said that, I mean, it's committees or whatever, but set up a citizens group and say, well, here's the guidelines. If you're not doing what we voted you in there to do, we should have every right to say, out you go. You're not staying there for 4 years because you're not representing us, the people. Forget the party. It's the people who voted you in there, and they're the ones that you're responsible to. But the first thing with you guys is all party.
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes campaign promises are, fingers crossed while you make them. But there's also some things that get promised and pledged that are really not actually manageable over the course of a 4-year term either. So a lot of the things we talk about insofar as making things better is, let's just take the 2 big ones, or 3 big ones. Healthcare, housing, public safety. There's no real switch that could be flipped, that all of a sudden your promises to make things better on the hustings can be satisfied in your first, second, third, or 4th year. It's laying the groundwork so that it can be done properly. Now, everyone wants things fixed now, including me, because we're all kind of petulant, but there are a lot of promises made that take time. And I'm not in the business of letting people off the hook, but I also understand the reality of how things actually work in this world. Well, I try to anyway.
Well, I mean, you're a lot more up on the issues than me and a good many more like me, I'd say. But, things like the Auditor General's report and all that, never mind implementing some of it. If she's in there and she's finding stuff that's just not right and these things are going on, well, it should be fixed immediately, not say we're going to need 4 years or we're going to need this, that, or the other thing. I mean, why is it being done like this, and change it immediately so it's not being done like this?
Fair ball and fair questions, Kevin. I appreciate you making time for the program this morning.
Okay, buddy, you have a good one. Take care. Have a great weekend.
You too. All the best. All right, bye-bye. There we go. How are we doing out there, Dave? Let's talk about the Placentia Sports Hall of Fame right after this. Coming up, though, after 11 o'clock, there was a big news announcement at the Port of Argentia. The board chair, Jenny Picco, is going to join us. And after 11:30, national journalist who's been covering the trial about the 2018 5 members of Team Canada. Of course, the not guilty verdict was read after some 5 hours yesterday in an Ottawa courtroom. So that conversation is coming up. Then whatever you want to talk about, don't go away. Welcome back. Let's go to line number 3. Good morning, Paul Toomey. You're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. How are you this morning?
Very well, thank you. How about you?
Yeah. Good. Great show. Paddy, I'm just following up on a call I made to you last week about the Placentia Area Sports Hall of Fame. As I mentioned last week, a small group of us are in the process of trying to get a Sports Hall of Fame established for the Placentia area, knowing its great roots in a variety of different sports. And we've got the approval of the town council, and we have established a not-for-profit, the Placentia Area Sports Hall of Fame, Inc. And we have an appeal out there for people in the area who have an interest in this and in preserving the sports history, and also in supporting the up-and-coming youth to join the initial board of directors of the organization. If they want to find out how to do that, they can go to the Town of Placentia website or their Facebook page, and there is a notification there, which includes my email address in order to send in an expression of interest. A short letter is all we need. We're trying to move this thing along, so we'd like to have any expressions of interest by the end of this weekend if we could. So it's just a reminder to people that if you are interested, don't hesitate. Get something into me with an email, and we'll certainly make sure you get consideration for the board of directors.
Fair enough, and let's hope that you can staff it up. It's going to take some people to make sure this works as intended. And so, one more time, I think last time we spoke about this, it was the thought of having the hybrid of an online presence and a physical presence, somewhere people can go and actually touch and look at whether it be the memorabilia and the plaques to talk about the people who are the members.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where we envisage it going. Right now, we're not in a position to accept items and that sort of thing, but that's certainly something down the road. So we want people to keep that in mind. If you have things of sports significance for the area, hang on to them, because there is going to be a place that we'll be able to show them. Our goal on this is to be able to have the first inductions sometime before the end of 2026, because as you just said, there is a lot of work to establish this. There's a lot of work that needs to be done by committees and a board to get set up and ready to go. Not only the research to determine who should go into the Hall of Fame, but also coming up with the sponsorships and getting the location ready. The town has offered a location, and we're working towards that as well. But right now we need a full board of people from the area who really want to take on this project and are prepared to commit a couple of years, 3 years to the project to get it up and running and make sure that it's something that's going to be around for a long, long time.
I hope so too. Appreciate this, Paul. Stay in touch. Keep me in the loop.
I will indeed. Thanks, Paddy.
You're welcome,
Have a
Paul.
great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Let's keep rolling here. Let's go to line number 1. Clyde, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Paddy. Beautiful morning here on Bjorn Peninsula.
Lovely.
Yeah, no, I'm calling to try to make it quick. I've been talking about the roads in Spanish River, Rock Harbour for years and years anyway, but we did send a letter in to the government, and I sent it to you just now on Facebook. I don't know if you got a chance to look at it or not.
No, I haven't. I haven't had Facebook open yet today.
Oh, that's fine. Anyway, I'll explain it to you real quick. We've got it down as a safety issue right now. If an ambulance or a fire truck ever had to come out this way, heaven forbid, that it would be a big delay. Somebody in the emergency vehicle could be hurt with the roads is so bad. Now, anyway, we did receive a letter back on June 4th saying that the government, somebody was going to come out and look at it, and if they got any hazards, any safety hazards on the road, it will be fixed. Now, it'll soon be August the 4th, and I haven't heard a thing since. So I don't know what's going on there, but I mean, I think somebody needs to sit down and have a big overhaul of our road conditions and the way things are done. I know with the Department of Highways, we always got ditching done, Paddy, and as of years, now the last few years and that, we were supposed to get ditching done over our way. Here last year it didn't happen. And what they do, Paddy, is they shut down the depots, and then one of them is in Boat Harbour, and the Orange Day is open, and they got to take care of 23 communities to do the ditching and everything else. And here they are up and laying off these people after the snow is gone. You know what I mean? They cut back. So I don't know what kind of system it is, but I tell you, it needs a big overhaul to me.
No argument coming here. I mean, the roads and however many thousands of kilometers of roads are here in this province are not always going to be perfect. But there's questions to be had about just exactly how we approach this type of civil work anyway. You know, even roads around where I live, people think, well, you got our skull in the city. I guarantee you we don't. That's one thing for sure. So, yeah, I mean, there was a good idea when we had early tenders. It was a good idea when we had 5-year roadmaps about what was going to be prioritized. Of course, there's always going to be the need to respond to whether it be a natural disaster or whatever the case may be. But what I thought was going to be better doesn't seem to be working.
No, and like you said, the tenders early, that didn't happen this year because I'm working with right now I'm got flagging again with a company, and they didn't get some of the tenders. The bids wouldn't in until about a month ago. And they'll say they're going to do this road, and the road's probably, we'll say, 10 kilometers long or 8 or 9, and the only one road I know what I'm talking about, I've been there, is only going to do 3.2 kilometers of that road right now. When you got all the equipment and everything in place for to do more, you know what I mean? And the time, they lost a month already this year on it. So, like I said, it needs to be an overhaul. Somebody needs to be come up to par with this. I think it's the third transportation minister we had in there now in the last year or so. So, I mean, you know, how do you justify that kind of stuff when somebody's just thrown in there? And like I say, something got to be done. That's just the way it is. You know, got to be a better system so people will know, and, you know, that's just the way it is. Let us know.
Fair enough.
Anyway, that's my beef again, Paddy. And like I say, one thing I got to mention here, due to flagging and in construction zones, we had a close call there Wednesday where I'm working to. Somebody was coming along there and going at least 100 kilometers an hour in construction zone, and they're going so fast that They almost hit one of the workers, and like I said, when they're going that fast, see, you can't get their license plate number, right?
Yeah, speeding is one of the thorns in my side. Anyway, Clyde, I got to get to the news, but I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I mean, Patty, when you come to a zone with all kinds of signs there, and somebody tells you they didn't see no notice, I mean, come on. But anyway, you be safe, and hopefully they'll get something done with the roads, and they'll get a better system what we got, because it's broken like everything else, right?
Thanks a lot, Clyde.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
All the best.
Very much.
All right, bye-bye. All right, very quickly, on behalf of the folks at the CNIB, we had a chat with Dion Slaney yesterday about the garden party coming up this weekend. Because of the weather forecast, they're going to reschedule from the 26th tomorrow. Now it's going to happen on July the 27th, Sunday, at the same time. So there you go. Let's take a break for the news. When we come back, we're going to say good morning to the chair of the board with the Port of Argentia. That's Jenny Pico, and then we're speaking with you. Don't go away.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 2. Say good morning to the chair of the board with the Port of Argentia. That's Jenny Pico. Good morning, Jenny. You're on the air.
Morning, Patty.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you. I wanted to call in today to send out some appreciation to everyone who helped make our big announcement on Tuesday such a success. Despite the rainy weather, we were able to come together at the new Port of Argentia Wellness Centre to announce the incredible news that we were donating $500,000. We couldn't have done it without the support from the town of Placentia. Council staff were absolutely instrumental in helping make the centre a reality for our region. And we also wanted to give a huge thanks to the staff who were on hand Tuesday to help everything run smoothly behind the scenes. And lastly, Patty, I wanted to send a sincere thanks to the rest of our board of directors, both past and present. Their leadership over the years has just allowed us to grow and reach a place where we could make this donation possible. So it was a real team effort, and I wanted to take a moment to recognize that this morning.
Fair enough. It's a significant amount of money. What would be the motivation for the port? What's the link between a wellness centre and arena and the operations at the Port of Argentia? Or is it simply about leaving a lasting legacy, so to speak?
Yeah, when we lend our name to a facility, we want to make sure we're making a commitment to be a visible, active part of the community, Patty, in the long term. You know, we have a strong belief in giving back, and we think that that really supports growth in the region. And we've been an organization that's really been rooted in local partnership and people. So we think that this is one way we give back. And the Wellness Center aligns with our values of community, well-being, shared progress.
Fair enough, and I'm sure the folks in Placentia will appreciate that type of investment, and bravo to all involved at every different level. Jenny, do you have a minute or two to talk about some of the operations at the port?
Sure.
Can you give us an update where we are with Pattern Energy? Because unlike the other proponents in the onshore wind, this is on private property for the most part, at least phase one is. Where are we with Pattern?
So right now, Pattern, as part of the Argentia Renewables, we're in the process of responding to the NL Hydro expression for interest. So we're committed to being the successful bidder. Keep in mind the Port of Argentia does retain a 15% equity and a 2.5% royalty in that. So that would be the key priority right now.
There's a lot of things that go on at the Port of Argentia, and also, like when I talk with Scott Penny over the years, we talk about things like the marshalling port. So it's for the offloading of monopiles, which has happened. The first one is already there, but it's all in support, as I understand, of U.S. offshore wind projects. The winds have changed in the United States. Has there been a difference in the flow and the amount of operations there? Because the current American administration is not very high on renewables, apparently, and so many of the offshore wind projects have actually been cancelled, or several have been cancelled in the United States. What does that mean for business at the port?
Yeah, so it's actually been positive for the business at the port, Patty. So we continue to load in monopiles, and we have more coming this fall. The partnerships that we've built internationally through our marshalling activities have helped drive, our development, also some new opportunities. So you would see wind blades if you visited the port. As a result of some of the shifts in the U.S., a lot of these European manufacturers need to get them off their land. So the port provides a really great place for laydown while we work to understand what's going to happen next in the U.S. So it's still positive for the port.
That's good news because, in the big scheme of things, that industry is kind of chaotic here in North America at this moment in time. You also have a relationship with the agriculture industry. And, we know that Greek has sold off all its Canadian assets and Norwegian assets. What does that sound like, and what does that mean for the future? I don't know what the new buyer is going to do, whether or not they're going to proceed as planned with the current Placentia Bay operations and or expansion. What's the conversation look like between your board and the new owner? It's a Norwegian company. I can't remember what it's called, CEM something.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that we've had any active conversations, and I wouldn't be able to speak on behalf of management, but there's been nothing developed at this point with the new owner to bring to the board yet. So I don't have a ton on that one. I would say on the Cooper Cove dock expansion, though, we're shaping up to hopefully begin construction in Q3. So the RFP's closed. We're reviewing the competitive bids right now. We're really encouraged by the proposals, and we're aiming to break ground in Q3.
There was a ton of conversation internationally, and certainly in this country, and specifically this province, about the wealth of critical minerals and rare earth minerals we're sitting on. We're talking about supply chain control and expansion of current mines and new mines to be yet explored. The port seems to be well poised to be involved in that arena, whether it be with processing or distribution. Talk about the conversation between yourselves and the mining industry, because what I thought was going to be happening at breakneck pace has sort of stalled.
Yeah, there's definitely been some conversation as it relates to green steel and critical minerals that are coming out of Labrador. I think it's still really early days for us from a board of directors standpoint. What we frequently see is, we set a strategy, but we allow management to really lead and spearhead that. So we often don't see things until they've progressed far enough that, we're at a point of progress, I guess. But I do think there's tremendous opportunity in the critical minerals.
There really is. Just from a personal perspective, I'm a little bit surprised we haven't seen more on that front. People could talk about federal investment in electric vehicle battery plants and all that stuff, but regardless of where it's made, we have the minerals, and Canada's done a good job of extracting, maybe not that great a job at secondary, tertiary processing. So I was just curious where the port would be in that conversation. Jenny, anything else before we say goodbye this morning?
No, Patty, I just wanted to thank everybody again for Tuesday. We're also proud to welcome players from around the province to the Placentia Bay Industrial Showcase alongside the Placentia Chamber of Commerce in September. So we are looking forward to that event.
I really appreciate your time, and on behalf of the folks of Placentia and surrounding area, thank you for the generous donation to the Wellness Centre.
All right, thank you, Patty.
You're welcome, Jenny. Take care. That's Jenny Pico, chair of the board at the Port of Argentia. There's a lot of stuff goes on out there. I've been meaning to take up the invitation to go have a look at what goes on at the Port of Argentia. And Pattern Energy, pretty sure that plan will proceed with wind turbines to satisfy some power needs in that area. The rest of those proponents out there, of which there's only one that's been greenlit or released, from its environmental assessment, and of course that's World Energy GH2. They've even said themselves that what was looking like a very bullish forecast regarding the thirst for green hydrogen isn't what it once was. So they've even talked about, plan B with data centers and the like. And that conversation was certainly very heated, and we had plenty of calls on it, and it's kind of fallen by the wayside. Maybe that's because the international conversation about it isn't as turbocharged as it once was. Let's check in on Twitter. We're VOCM Open Line, you know what to do. Email address is openline@vocm.com. Still a bit of time left in the program here this morning and this week. I will be away next week, so if you'd like to have a chat today would be a great day. If you're in and around town, it's 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. We're taking a break and then we're coming back. Welcome back to the show. This is an interesting offer from a lady who just sent me an email. So this is a person with a disability, and they had bought a ticket for herself and her attendant, to go to the Blake Shelton concert tomorrow, Saturday night, in Churchill Park Music Festival. She can't go, so she wants to give it away. She's not selling it. She wants to give it to another person who also has a disability. Fantastic. So if you can show your attendance pass, she will transfer the ticket to you. So if you contact me, I will put you in contact with this lady. And so please, let's do this all in good faith. If you're someone with a recognized disability and you'd like to go see Blake Shelton in Churchill Park tomorrow evening, We got a ticket for you and your attendant. So that's fantastic. So hopefully we will help her give that ticket to someone else. Again, it's not for sale. It's simply a gift to you. Good for her. Very quickly, I get the same kind of emails from the same kind of people sometimes about, how come we haven't been able to arrive at a trade deal with the Americans, even though it wasn't even up for renegotiation until next year. And someone who repeatedly tells me, well, if supply management and access for Americans regarding dairy, poultry and eggs is the hang-up, let's just do away with supply management. Easier said than done, number one. The Parliament just passed unanimously a hands-off supply management as it pertains to diplomatic relations and trade deals, what have you. Then there's some realities of what it does mean. Look, we do indeed, in some cases, pay some inflated prices. Imagine throwing open the floodgates to the Americans, though. There is a tariff at a certain height which has never been paid, not 1 single cent. There's also growth hormones used in American cows that we don't even allow in this country as per Health Canada. But the Americans, very much in the vein of socialism, they highly subsidize their farmers. I mean, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars per year. So if we did indeed see ourselves, Canadian farmers, priced out and the market flooded with American product, boy, we're setting ourselves up for a pretty big disaster. Rural Canada, certainly the milk producers, would be in quite a state. Plus, it's the hypocrisy of the comments being made. Let's see here. 10% of Canada's domestic dairy market, for example, enter tariff-free. That's American product. All other imports face high tariffs to prevent foreign foods from flooding the country. Of course. In comparison, the United States foreign dairy product access is only 2.75% of its domestic market. Europe offers just 0.5% access for foreign poultry. So we already accept more than they accept. But yet, this is somehow a hang-up. And we can get into the moving parts and the so-called 3 pillars of supply management. It's also worthwhile looking at what has happened in other parts of the world where they have done away with regulation in that world. Australia. Prices for milk in the major city rose 27 cents per litre in 3 years after they deregulated the industry. In New Zealand, which is the largest dairy exporting country in the world, milk prices are higher there than they are in Canada. So it's a strange old thing, isn't it? Anyway, let's see here. Let's go to line number 2. Good morning, Carrie. You're on the air.
Hi, I'm just calling to see if you could give me the information to contact the lady there about the Blake Shelton Pass. I have I just actually received the access pass there for a person recognized with disability.
Okay.
And I'd love to get in touch with her to see if she's able to give that to me if she's unable to go.
Absolutely. I'm happy to share the information. Can you send me an email and I'll send you her email address? I don't know if she wants me to put her name out live over the air. She didn't indicate one way or the other, so I'd hate to do that to her and then all of a sudden she'd be mad at me. So if you send me an email, I'll give you her email address. How's that?
Yes, that would be great. I appreciate that so much.
So it's openline@vocm.com. I'll reply right away.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, bye-bye.
Have a good day.
You too. There we go. That's good action on that one. Let's go to line number 1 and say good morning to Baseball NL Metro Director, Minor Chair. That's Kristen Coley. Good morning, Kristen. You're on the air.
Hi, Patty. Thanks for having me on today.
Happy to do it. What's on your mind?
We're just really excited. We're hosting Baseball NL Day tomorrow. It's our 4th annual event. And we're just celebrating some of the great events that happen throughout the summer in our province. So we usually tie that in with our senior provincials, which is happening at St. Pat's Ballpark tomorrow. So we actually have a nice family event planned for around 11:30 tomorrow with some bouncy castles and face painting. So pretty excited and looking forward to a great weekend.
The ballpark's looking pretty good.
Definitely. So definitely gearing up for Canada Games, which is really exciting. Lots of work being done and lots of time and energy is being put into it. So this is a great test event now this weekend for that. So definitely hoping the weather holds off tomorrow and should be a good weekend.
One thing inside the Canada Summer Games this go around, the first time in history female baseball is part of the competition. We've seen a real spike in female registration in minor sports across the board, right around the country. Some of it due to like the success of the WNBA and the Professional Women's Hockey League and the like. But what does it mean for female baseball here into the future, do you think?
Absolutely. So I'm very fortunate. I'm actually an assistant coach on the girls team. So definitely very looking forward to a couple weeks' time. And in another role, I'm also the chair of the Girls and Women's Committee for Baseball Canada. So we're very aware of how important this event is going to be for driving registration numbers going forward. We're really excited for all the girls in the province to see exactly what opportunities are available to them. Our girls have traveled so much, made so many friends, met so many people across the country, and myself as well in terms of my role. So it's really exciting to see that all come together and be able to put on a great show for them to really push that there are opportunities in baseball for women.
Absolutely, and I can't say all the credit, but a lot of credit can go to players like Jada Lee. She's not the only female baseball player here, but making history by being the first female to play on the boys' team at the games really did, I think, probably bring some females into the sport.
Absolutely. Anytime you have some positive role models that are really demonstrating what you can do in a sport, it definitely is important for, driving registration, but also saying there's space here for us, and we just have to step up and take it. So there's definitely been a lot of great ball players in our past and present, like Jada and Heather Healy, and a lot of great ones to come. So hopefully now we'll have a couple new household names after a few weeks' time. So we're really looking forward to hopefully putting on a good show at home.
Absolutely. And, of course, Mark Healy is the head coach or the manager of the girls' team at the games, which is great because Mark's a great baseball guy.
Definitely. The girls are really lucky because we have a great staff. So we have Mark. We also have Troy Croft, who has an extensive baseball career himself and a lot of experience at the Canada Games. We also have an extended coaching staff with Trevor Murphy and Bob Morgan, who have a phenomenal sports background. So they've had great coaching, great team culture that we've built. And they really have no better expertise than what we have in this room. So they've been very lucky to experience that as well. And with the boys, it's very different getting to coach a girls team. They've had so much experience coaching some male teams at Canada Games. So they've learned a lot from that experience as well.
I think it's great. This is maybe a bit of a tangential question, but for minor sports athletes, they are obviously going to be fans of the professional level, in this case, baseball. Does it make any difference to the mood and the attitude and the excitement around the field this year, given how well the Blue Jays are playing?
Absolutely. I always feel that, the Blue Jays doing well get people in the door in terms of interest. And then our role is kind of making sure that we have great programs that keep the retention high. So the fact that the Blue Jays are doing well always gets people more excited about baseball. And then it's really our job to keep them engaged.
Keeping engaged. Let me just pick up on that for 1 second before I let you go. Yeah. Being engaged, because we played baseball, my boys played baseball. One of them really loved it. One of them was bored with it. And so keeping a kid engaged is pretty tricky business because there's not a whole lot of action at certain parts of the day when you're out in right field, say, for instance. So what are some of the tricks of the trade to keep the young players involved and excited and wanting to come back to the ballpark?
You hit the nail on the head. Baseball is a very different sport than some other sports because we're not just, running around. You can have a lot of downtime and then a lot of quick things happening. So I know Baseball Canada has been in development of many different programs trying to encourage some different developmental milestones for younger ball players that encourage, gameplay being sped up, having, some modifications that would really encourage more active time as opposed to waiting around. I guess the big thing is we always try to find particular roles for athletes, even when they're not necessarily playing. So it might be a role on the bench as a bullpen catcher or scorekeeper or something that they always feel like they're engaged, whether they're particularly playing or not. But I think it's really important just to think outside the box. So rule modifications, trying to come up with leagues where we're decreasing the number of participants so that every participant can be more taking part more often. And I think it just comes from an organizational standpoint of being open to some change and some modifications.
Yeah, I love the sport. At the upper levels, it's different than for the little kids because we're not talking about mixing up pitches and putting on the shift and all this kind of stuff. So, baseball is really one of those games. Once you get into it and follow it along, whether it be at minor, amateur, or at the big league level, I personally have a soft spot for baseball. I always have. Happy Baseball Newfoundland and Labrador Day to you, Kristen, and thanks for making time.
Thanks, Patty. Really appreciate it.
Anytime. All the best. Okay, there we go. Kristen Coley, baseball NL minor chair. Let's see, very quickly, for folks out in the Bay of Islands, just a quick announcement that the Old Break House Indigenous Museum is now open from 2 to 4 daily. They have artifacts, Newfoundland furniture, so you're going to be able to get in, ask some questions, see some of the artifacts on hand at the Old Break House Indigenous Museum out of the Bay of Islands. Now open from 2 to 4 daily. Let's take a break for the news. Don't go away.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back to the program. Well, many in the country and many eyes from around the world were covering the case of 5 former World Junior Hockey players who yesterday were found to be not guilty of charges of sexual assault. Eric Macramala is a TSN Forbes legal analyst. He was covering the trial and he joins us on line number 4. Good morning, Eric. You're on the air.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing great today. Thanks for doing this.
No problem.
Before we get into the trial itself and the verdict, let's go back to the origin of this story and how Hockey Canada handled it. Because when it was told that Hockey Canada had quietly paid a financial settlement to EM, that really cast the narrative and began the public discourse, which really set the stage for some contentious matters leading into the trial itself. How do you think about what Hockey Canada did here?
Yeah, I think actually you make a good point and something that maybe isn't being discussed enough, and that is that when hockey, the civil lawsuit, and they threatened the players to ensure that they cooperated, that set the baseline discussion, sort of a foundational element for the discussion, which presumed guilt on the part of the players. And I know that Justice Caraccia, who issued her decision yesterday, probably wasn't entirely fond of how Hockey Canada handled it. Any lawyer and any legal professional who is provided that information just kind of shakes their head and go, "Here, hang on a second now. You know, players are entitled to due process, and why is there a rush to judgment?" And that rush to judgment ended up following the players all the way through to the decision yesterday. And there was a lot of pressure on London police and the Crown to pursue criminal charges, and you just wonder to what extent that's a result of Hockey Canada's settlement.
It seeps into people's psyche. It's human nature, right? When people look like they're guilty, then people think they're guilty, regardless of due process that everyone deserves. So let's get into the origins of the trial itself. It was very disconnected. It's kind of like nothing I've ever really seen before, but maybe we followed this one quite closely because I'm a hockey guy and these were very serious charges. Just talk about how it all unfolded and the disconnected nature of this trial.
Well, I mean, it's unusual to have 2 juries dismissed. That was unusual, although I think the defense lawyers were pleased when the second jury was dismissed and there was a re-election to have the judge decided. I thought they believed their chances were better with the judge, and I think that they were right, and I think that we saw that. With a jury, you don't really know. They come to the table with their own set of experiences and view this through their own prism, comprised of their own set of experiences. So that was unusual and something I think that defense was on board with when the judge decided to take over the case. But insofar as to how this went down, apart from that, it's not an unusual trial. EM, she was subjected to a direct examination, then crossed, and then we had one of the players, Carter Hart, who also offered up some testimony. There wasn't a lot of expert testimony. I was a bit surprised. They didn't call EM's mom, or they didn't call an expert to say, that you can feel outnumbered and on autopilot, and that robs you of any ability to consent. There wasn't a lot of that. The issue from the outset, I guess, is this case didn't fall within the 4 corners of your typical sexual assault case, and that's what the Crown said in their opening to the jury. This isn't your typical sexual assault case, and really, it was an uphill battle for the Crown. They had to establish guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a very high bar. You have to be certain that the players committed the criminal acts. That's a very high bar. And Judge Caraccia yesterday said, no, they didn't establish guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
This case, like many other sexual assault cases, if not all, there's questions that are had about, how defense attorneys treat, in this case, EM. The judge made reference to insulting and mocking and what have you. I know that all of the defendants have to have a vigorous defense, but in the world of legal wranglings, is there ever an opportunity in this world? Because I know we've created things like drug courts. Is there a way to create different circumstances for how defense attorneys handle these types of matters? Because there's a reason why some women won't come forward, and that's one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit separate. I think here the mocking related to Dan Brown, Formanton's lawyer, and his co-counsel making fun apparently of some jurors, which is why the jurors were dismissed. On the broader issue, if you have a jury, then typically defense lawyers might be not as adversarial with EM. But and they cross-examined her. I think she was cross-examined for 7 days. If there was no jury there, it was just a judge, I would have expected defense lawyers to actually be more aggressive with EM, because they're just dealing with a judge that's seen this many times, as adjudicated over these types of cases numerous times. There's no doubt that you have to treat everybody with respect. But understanding that these players are presumed innocent unless otherwise proved to be guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
So given what you talk about, the two juries dismissed and how the judge handled it as a justice alone, you say the verdict is not too surprising. Is that because of the high bar that was not met, or is there anything else that you'd like to factor into that not being surprised?
I mean, I covered this case extensively in my own radio show Offside that airs on a couple TSN radio stations. And as I covered and went through all the testimony week after week after week, I was like, okay, the issue here is, the ultimate legal issue is consent. Did the players take reasonable steps to determine EM's consent, and did EM consent? Well, I'll just give you one example of Alex Formanton. She took him by the hand, led him to the bathroom, turned around, they had sexual relations. She then turned around, sexually gratified him. Well, for the defense lawyers, that's 3 instances of consent, taken by the hand and then in the washroom, the 2 separate, discrete sexual events. So you have that. Well, a reasonable person would conclude that EM was providing her consent. She said she was on autopilot, she felt outnumbered, and maybe that's the case. But the issue is that the number, when you looked at the various events that occurred and the testimony offered up in court, it didn't rise to the level of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
The NHL was quick to chime in here. Just hours after the ruling was offered, they said the 5 men will remain ineligible. It will remain to see into the future after final review as to what that holds. But this whole hockey culture business, the staying on the sport with these types of allegations, which are as old as time, what do you think this ruling means for Hockey Canada and hockey culture? Because the conversation has been quite damning. I don't know why hockey gets focusing on so clearly on this front, because it's not like other sports don't have their warts, including allegations of sexual assault. So what do you think this means for the hockey community?
Well, I mean, there's no doubt that an event like this puts people on high alert and changes behavior and makes people perhaps more guarded or more careful in the decisions that they make. There's no doubt about that. That's going to have a cooling effect for sure.
You know, at the minor levels, there's lots of programs and efforts put forward about respect and self-respect on a variety of levels, whether it be physical contact and the possibility for these types of incidents to take place. When you get to things like major junior, especially for the elite players get to play for their country and whatnot, we've got to have some programs put in place where if people continually tell you how great you are, how cool you are, then all of a sudden as young teenagers, still developing young men, they all of a sudden get carried away with their own press. So that becomes part and parcel of societal issues as opposed to strictly legal issues. Eric, anything else you'd like to offer on this front? Because you did a great job covering the trial.
Thanks. No, I mean, I think now it's important to understand the players were presumed innocent. They were acquitted. And now, in all likelihood, they're going to walk. I doubt the Crown's going to appeal, because if they did, they're going to lose. So now the players are set free. They're going to walk, and we'll see which players, including Carter Hart, will return to the NHL. And I fully expect that Carter Hart will be playing in the NHL in the near future.
And this comes down to, you know, teams evaluating the PR that they take on when they bring one of these players back in, because once again, human nature. They have been found not guilty and point accepted here. But that, you know, inside that hockey culture world, but then look no further than the Chicago Blackhawks, kept people around after allegations of sexual improprieties and sexual assault. So
I guess an allegation is just that.
It is. Understood.
It's an allegation. And in this instance here, the players were subjected to a criminal trial.
Yep.
And they were acquitted. So I think that we need to a certain extent, respect the decision of the court and then move on from there with lessons learned.
And you know, I mean, the calculation done at the executive level or the ownership level in the NHL is how many tickets might be jeopardized, whether or not that player can help me win. You know, they won't be focusing on the court proceedings. Yeah. They'll be doing those two measures. Eric, it's good to have you on the show. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure. All the best.
Take care, you too. Bye-bye. It's Eric McMorella, TSN and Forbes legal analyst. Let's take a final break of the morning and the week. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go line number 3. Good morning, Janet. You're on the air.
Yes, I was coming through Paradise, and there's a group of people walking, so the police have the right side of the road blocked off with flashing lights, and there's a group of people. I see someone with a Fortis sign, flag, but they like both traffic lanes. They have a white car in front of the left lane too, holding up traffic. But once you get past Paradise, they got it down to one lane, I think. It's backed up right back to the overpass into Paradise.
I wonder what exactly is going on there.
I don't know. There's a group of people, and somebody's got a blue Fortis flag in their hand.
Okay, I just got the town of Paradise
Council trucks too there, yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you what it is. It is the Orange Store 2025 Canada Games Torch Relay. Paradise, July 25.
Oh,
there you go.
Very good. Okay, so traffic is bad.
So
anyone going that way?
Steer clear. It's already pretty bad out there at the best of times.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, one of my boys lives out in Paradise these days, and he's quick to tell me about the traffic jams at rush hour. Appreciate the time. Thanks for letting us know.
Terrible. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. And apparently the torch bearers in this leg of the torch relay, Mayor Dan Babbitt, Keegan Delaney, Susan Eskett, Isabel Crocker, Rod Snow, Megan Ryan, Gavin Brake, and Megan Holden. How about that? Let's go to line number 1. Good morning, Jerry. You're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Patty. How are you?
Excellent. How about you?
Jerry Brenton calling from Mayorstown again.
Welcome back to the show.
I called you last week about the Mayorstown shipyard.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to talk a bit about the Bay of the North project, if I could today.
Go right ahead.
As I understand it, I've worked on this project in the past. I know the extent of it. They're only going to do 3 wells now. And they're going to rent or lease in FPSOs. I think that's correct, right?
Yeah, they're going to lease an FPSO, is what's coming from Equinor itself. You say they're only going to do 3 wells. Is that from Equinor? Because I know there's, I think, 8 wells involved with the exploration out there.
Yeah, there is 8. And in fact, there's more than that.
Okay.
But it's, from what I'm hearing, they're only going to do the first 3. And even if they do it or don't, the amount of work that Newfoundlanders are going to get out of that is minuscule. Like if you're familiar with a well, it's a steel template and it's a pipe rack on top of it, and there's a lot of piping, tieback piping, and all that. It is a fair chunk of work, but it's nowhere near the amount of work we should be getting out of a project. This has the potential to be the biggest oil project that Newfoundland has ever seen. And here they are, and here's the oil companies. They're just going to come in. They'll do maybe 3, and then the FPSO is there, and then they do for 3 more. That same FPO is still there. That FPSO is still there, and it's only a minor amount of work for steel and pipe. It's not really what we need. It's the topsides work is what we need on these FPSOs.
And it's work we've done.
Oh, it's work we've done. Work we've done very, very well. Like we do steel and pipe as good as well, but the topsides work is steel and pipe and electrical and insulators and pipe and mechanical, like all trades, right? Mm-hmm. So, this is the stuff that we need. We need government to sit at the table with these guys and just explain to them. Like, this is a big FPSO who's coming over on this job. I'm sure you could sit down and carve out 6 or 7 modules that vessel doesn't need until it comes over. That could be built at Bullingham or at Mayorstown or at Port of Ask or at Steamville. There are several places here who have fabricated for offshore in the past.
It all boils back to the type of negotiations inside the benefits agreements. I mean, even think back to ExxonMobil and work done at Hebron. You know, some of the work that was supposed to be done here didn't get done here, and ExxonMobil was quick, we'll just write you a check, which is money for the province, which is vastly different than actual money in people's pockets. So that happened. And with Equinor here, look, they come and say, well, you know, we can say, well, it's our resource. Unless you do what we want, then you can't have it. And they just say, well, there's lots of projects that we have interest in, so we'll just walk away. We can't be just bullied into the corner here. And as opposed to, you know, demanding an equity stake, let's demand more work.
Betty, you just took the words out of my mouth. An equity stake or royalties are fine, but the workers we need, and a lot of this work isn't going to be in rural Newfoundland. We're starving to death. We're dying in rural Newfoundland. And understand now we're dying. We need the work, and we're good at the work, and no government should be allowing this stuff to go. Like an oil company to dictate to us. It is our oil, and I know it's been a long time for a project. And I know it's now being called a nation-building project. Our opinion on oil has changed over the last 2 years. Like our governments didn't want nothing to do with oil, but now all of a sudden, let's go, let's push, let's do oil, but let's not give it away. Let's make sure that people are going to get the benefits out of this, not just money in the bank for the government.
Yeah, like most times, regardless of what we're talking about, whatever project and whatever industry, benefits agreements are fine. Royalties are absolutely got to be part of the conversation. But the best thing we can do here, and sometimes we rely a little bit too heavily on mega projects for jobs, but when they come to town, squeezing every single job out of it is certainly much more important than equity stake. I won't say that about royalties, but I will say it about equity stakes.
Yeah, well, I don't really understand maybe enough the difference of the two, but I do understand work. I'm a construction worker, construction superintendent, or a construction manager, and I understand the work and the benefits it will bring to Marystown or the Sunnyside or the Clarenville or like all the places that are around these big fabrication facilities, right?
Yeah, because at one moment we were talking about, man, are we going to have enough tradespeople to build all these wind projects and to complete the gravity-based structure out in Argentia? Are we going to have enough people to work on Bay du Nord? Are we going to have enough people to work on Gull Island? Now all of a sudden people are starving for work.
But Paddy, people are never an issue. Well, what would Port McMurray have said back in 1995? Well, their population has gone up about 100 times. If there's work, you'll get people.
Yeah.
All we need is work.
I think the only difference there, and not to split hairs, is to work in the oil patch, which had decades of lifespan ahead of it, is maybe different than working on something for a few years. That's all I'll say. But I'm with you 100%. The jobs are going to be the critical component here. Jerry, you've had the last word for the week, and I really appreciate your time.
All right, Paddy. Thanks a lot for listening.
My pleasure. Stay in touch. All right, there we go. And yes, I am going to be away next week, but of course we will indeed pick up this conversation on Monday morning right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producer David Williams, I'm your host Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy weekend. Talk Monday. Bye-bye.